Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Break. This is Steve Barrett, the editorial director of PR Week. Delighted to be here with Kathy Bloomgarden, who's the CEO of Ruder Finn, and she's joining us for a chat. Kathy, how are you doing? And welcome to Coffee Break.
Well, Steve, it's great to quote unquote see you and have a virtual coffee together. Yeah, this is a great platform, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, for sure. So tell us about your lockdown experience, both personally and from a company point of view. You've got an agency that is spread around the world, got lots of operations in Asia. You've always been a specialist in that area. Tell us a little bit about how the last 3 months have been for you and Ruder Finn.
Well, first of all, like you, I'm a very social person, and I love to walk around the office and stop and chat with people. So I have to admit, I miss that. But we've actually organized ourselves. What did you say? Necessity is the mother of invention. So
that's my new catchphrase.
So we've organized ourselves with many more touch points, actually. So we are having regular team meetings for all of our major clients, which I participate in. We have town halls, we have management committees. Actually, the distance from Asia has now shrunk because I'm talking to them just as I'm talking to someone who's, just a short distance away from me. So I think that we've actually learned a lot from using these platforms and organizing ourselves to even have more frequent conversations and discussions. And of course, for us, Asia and China went through the COVID experience first. So we have learned an awful lot from our Asia colleagues in terms of getting through this, how they structured their back to work, and what the experiences have been from China. So we've really been exchanging a lot of information, and it's been wonderful to talk to our colleagues there.
Yeah, I remember you were a pioneer in going into China. I think you speak Mandarin personally, and you've spent a lot of time there, and you're a real expert on the business over there. Tell us what you've learned from your Asia operations. And I remember at one time, I think you even said it was like almost half your business. So is that still the case? And what specifically have you learned from the Asia experience that might help us as we sort of think about returning to a physical work environment?
Well, first of all, I just participated in a really fantastic discussion with CEOs of Asian companies and CEOs of global entities managing Asia operations. And I really took away quite a lot because there's a lot that's similar and shared from what we're experiencing here. Joey Watt, who is the head of Yum China, I think she said it best when she said that this year is all about establishing a caring brand. And that's really crucial. If we establish a caring brand, we're going to really set ourselves up for the next 100 years. It's not really about making money this year. It's really about who we are and what our values are. Or, doubling down on our employees, making sure they're safe, doubling down on our customers and the experiences that they're going through now and how they will evolve coming out of this. The communities that we're in, and of course, the racial injustice issue is very much top of mind there. And the environment, we can't forget about the sustainability commitments. So all of these, variables really comprise a caring brand. And I think we all in this experience really step back and think really hard about what that means to us. From a Ruder Finn perspective, of course, we're, an agency that's one of the first that was ever created. We do have this long-term point of view and very global perspective. So I think that, really thinking that through, what that means to us has been important. And again, sharing it with our thoughts that we're getting from our Chinese colleagues has been really crucial input as we really think about how we evolve and come out of this lockdown and pandemic experience that we're all together suffering through.
Yeah, tell us about the business experience over the past 3 or 4 months. We've seen a lot of agencies have to make cuts. We've seen some agents, specialists, smaller agencies actually go out of business. We've seen other agencies actually getting new business and even hiring and taking on more work if they're specializing in certain areas. How has it been for you? Have you had to make cuts? Have you had to do furloughs, or what's the overall experience been for you?
Yeah, so we have not made any cuts, and we've had no furloughs, and we've had no pay reductions. Again, we're privately
This
owned.
sounds good. Can I come and work for you?
You can definitely come work for us. We're privately owned. We have no outside investors. We have no private equity investment in our agency. We can really make adjustments and adapt. We can, sacrifice some margins while we're getting through this kind of experience. I agree with the perspective that it's all about who we are and what our brand really stands for. That's really been crucial and important during this time. Also, the focus areas where we're really strong really give us a really, I say, strength in our culture. So, we're very strong in healthcare, as you know. We've seen many healthcare companies move aggressively forward in a much different format in terms of collaboration, in terms of accelerated timelines for vaccines and treatments and diagnostics. And we're working in all of those areas. In technology, another strong area for us, new collaboration platforms, new, cloud efforts. In fact, one really exciting company we're working for in tech, Bluescape, CEO Peter Jackson, has actually created a collaboration platform where Hollywood is adjusting and is actually creating movies online, which is very,
Oh,
very
okay.
super exciting. And then, I think that the executive leadership, we all know when we everyone has to be present and authentic and much more communication oriented than they were in the past. And it was extremely meaningful to hear Ken Frazier, for example, when we had the issues with
CEO of Merck. Yeah.
CEO of Merck come out and say, we can be a unifying force. We can rebuild communities. Just listening to him was very inspiring. So I think the whole focus as communication helps executive leadership be more vocal, be more present, be more authentic. That's another area where we have very strong, strong activities. And then in internal communications, making people feel secure, making them actually open to new ways of working. We have to innovate now. We have to do things differently. So I think that these very inspiring areas that we're working on really brought all of us at Ritter Finn together, enabled us also to continue to have a good business flow during this time, but also inspired our culture, inspired our people to be even closer to each other and to have this really strong sense of community.
Yeah, you mentioned Ken Frazier, a very inspiring business person, and actually came out of the communications profession, which is great to see. And he's one of the few black CEOs in a large Fortune 100 company. What do you make of the events of the last 3 weeks, which have really crystallized the issue of racial injustice? Again, right, this is a recurring story and nothing seems to change. Do you really feel that this is a proper turning point and we're actually going to see some real change? And how do you see business playing a role in that?
So I do agree with Ken Frazier that business can play a really important and fundamental role. It's not, I think, number one, we saw the Business Roundtable some months ago move forward with the stakeholder capitalism commitment. That was already a shift that was beginning to happen. And I think, of course, that our values being very front and center, no one could, everyone reacted to the horror of what had happened, and the fact that there was a redoubled commitment to, we want to stand up for our values. So I do think that business can make a real difference, but I think we do have to have action also. So it's not really enough simply to just discuss the feelings of horror at what happened. You need to really make some changes. I know at Ritter Finn for some time now, we've been watching our numbers and been really monitoring to make sure that we do have a diverse culture and a diverse employee base. And I'm very proud to say that we are very much on target with about 28, 29% diversity in the US. Of course, globally, we're extremely diverse because we have very large Asian, offices. So I think that, it's something that we do really pay attention to and have for some time. I think companies also are beginning to really step up and have concrete goals and really listening differently to their employee base.
So it's 29% over the US general sort of staff. What would the percentage be in the C-suite, and how important is it to make sure that people see an upward path into those senior roles as well as being working on the shop floor, if you like?
Yeah, so it's about 29% actually in the US. And we do in our management committee have a diverse group. And I think we have to look at diversity very broadly speaking. I mean, I think it's super important. The Supreme Court, ruling actually over the past day or so. So I think that it's really made us step forward and think much more
Yeah,
expansively.
that's the ruling on not being able to discriminate against people for their sexuality.
Exactly. So I think that you really have to open your mind, make sure that you're sensitive to all independent and preferences, and that is represented in our management committee.
Yeah, for sure. So, talking about going back to a physical working environment, and like you said, you've got that experience and in Asia, which is ahead of the curve a little bit. How do you see that playing out? What do you think the timings are going to be, and how's work going to be? What's the new normal going to look like in terms of a physical working environment?
So I think it's super important to realize that going back is not going back to where we were. There
No,
is,
for
there
sure.
is, that's disappeared. It doesn't exist anymore. So there's only going forward. And I really feel that coming out of this, there's going to be a real reinvention that we have to all think about. And so we have to push ourselves to really be more innovative than we have in the past. So of course we need our employees to feel safe and secure. So we're not going to rush back until people feel comfortable. But working with a lot of different companies in different industries, thinking about how you can do things differently. In the pharma industry, for example, those very accelerated and rapid trials, we've learned a lot from that. So we need to keep that way that we've, changed and operated the digitization process that occurred during this time across many different industries is really crucial that we keep that in the years ahead, and because we come out of this. And also in terms of the intersection with the startup and innovation community, working very closely with John Chambers, I've seen how startups need big companies need startups in order to make sure that we have all that new thinking. Rutherford set up a tech lab last year where we're constantly interfacing with startups in the area where communication and media and others, really are changing, to make sure we integrate that into our own work. So I think that that's really a platform we all have to consider as we go back to work and think about it. And, I think I heard Julie Sweet, the CEO of Accenture, say this. It always stuck in my mind, and I just love it. She said, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. So I think as we head back to work and as we head back to what reinvention looks like, that we really need to think about big ideas. We need to think about game-changing ways of operating that really are going to be real sincere improvements over what we left when we went into the lockdown.
I agree. Yeah, to repeat it's becoming a bit boring now, but necessity is the mother of invention, and we're actually seeing some great stuff, great innovation, great creativity. You mentioned production in Hollywood, but production in advertising, in PR and content creation, social, etc. So we're seeing a lot of that good stuff. Just to finish, and while I've got you here, I had to ask you this. Obviously, back in the day, there was Ruder Finn. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we've got Ruder Finn, we've got Finn Partners, we've got RF Binder. The family has kind of gone off and done their own different things, and we don't need to necessarily revisit that whole narrative. But actually, you also, I mean, Finn Partners is doing well. You seem to be thriving. So, did it actually free you up really to sort of go ahead and do your own thing and really and be more creative? What's your sort of reflections on that a few years down the line?
Yeah, so I think that actually it's a great question, and I think everyone did really well, which is great. So I think we all had, slightly different paths, but we all had the energy, the entrepreneurship, the creativity, and the love for this business that we all were able to really create something special. For me, of course, being very global, being very healthcare, technology, executive leadership, the engagement and the emotions of the internal communications, those were specialty areas that really were the fundamental pillars of what Rudderfin, our part of Rudderfin really was. And so it did free us up to really gain world leadership in those areas. And of course, be very, very global with our very, very strong global operations.
All right, Kathy. Well, listen, it's been great spending coffee break with you. Continued good luck. Great to hear that it hasn't been too bad in terms of this period and that you've stuck with it. And that's good to hear as a private company as well. So look forward to staying in touch and seeing what that new normal looks like.
Absolutely. And we'll have a devil espresso in person next time.
Yeah, let's do that for sure. Maybe something stronger. All right.
Take care.
Take care, Kathy. Bye-bye.